Have you ever updated a plugin, refreshed your website, and suddenly your layout has completely exploded? Or you've installed a new plugin, clicked activate, and instantly hit the white screen of death? Or maybe your online shop went down right as a customer was checking out. Now, these moments are stressful, embarrassing, and can cost you real money. And they nearly always happen because changes were made directly on the live website. The good news, though, there is a simple way to stop all of this ever happening again. In this video, you'll learn what staging sites are, how they protect your website, and how to create one using WP Vivid or something like your hosting provider. In this one, we're going to use xCloud, but most hosting providers will have something similar to this. And then how you can also safely push those changes live. By the end of this guide, we're going to close the loop on the biggest fear website owners have. How do I make changes without risking everything? So what exactly is a staging site, and how does it prevent all these disasters we've just talked about? Well, a staging site is a private clone of your live website. It's your safe place to test updates, try design changes, experiment with plugins, and break things without anyone ever having to see it. We'll look at two ways to create one. One using WP Vivid, a free plugin, and also then looking at hosting tools like xCloud. But first, you just need to understand why staging is such a lifesaver. So a staging site protects you from updates to break your layout, plugin conflicts, design changes that just look wrong on mobile, client changes that must go live today, e-commerce or membership features going wrong, critical downtime during updates, and here's the key idea to keep in mind. Every risky change becomes safe when you test it in staging first. I'll show you exactly how to do that soon, but before we go into setup, you need to know the limitations so you use staging correctly. Now, staging isn't perfect. Your live and staging sites can fall out of sync. Emails not sent properly, some servers behave differently between environments, and changes in staging don't automatically go live. You must push them. And this is why your staging method matters so much. So let's answer the question, should you use a plugin like WP Vivid or your hosting provider staging tools? So you have two great options. Option A, using your hosting-based staging. In our example, we're going to use xCloud. Now, many modern hosts, including xCloud, offer one-click staging environments. So with xCloud staging, you can create a staging copy instantly, test safely without affecting your live site, push changes back with a single button press, avoid plugin conflicts because staging runs at server level. So hosting-based staging is fast, reliable, and more importantly, great for beginners. Now, if your hosting doesn't offer staging or you want a little bit more control, WP Vivid is an ideal plugin. It lets you create staging sites in a subdirectory or a subdomain. You can choose which files and database tables to clone. You can push the staging site to live safely. You can use selective push to update only changed files, but this does require the premium plugin. And you can make automatic backups before you even publish anything. And now that you know your options, let's explore exactly how to create a staging site with both of these methods. Let's kick things off by taking a look at how we do this with WP Vivid Backup. So this is the free version of the plugin. Just need to go install it, activate it, and we are ready to follow along. Once you've done that, inside your dashboard in WordPress, simply come over to the new entry for WP Vivid Backup and choose Staging. Inside there, click on the Create a Staging Site tab, and this is where we can set everything up. Let's take a quick run through what we have here and go over the key things. So first of all, how do you want to handle the actual staging site itself? Do you want to put this in the website root, inside WP content, or do you want to create a subdomain? Subdomain is a pro feature, so if you need that, you're going to have to choose the pro plugin. So we're going to leave this in the website root. You can give this a custom directory name then, so you can call this whatever you want to. So we'll leave that as it is. Next up, we've got the how you want to handle the database for your staging site. Two options here. We can install the data into the same database table as the actual live website, and it will put a table prefix in for you. You can see that set by here. You can change that to whatever you want. This will be removed after you actually remove the staging site, so don't worry too much about that. But if you've got a very big website with a lot of content on there, it may be better to actually install it in its own separate database table on the same server, just so you keep the two things separate and you don't slow your main site down. It's worth considering. Just choose whichever one you want. So you can see if we install to a new separate database, we're going to have to give it a database name, username, and so on. In this example, we'll leave it going into the site's database. And then we can choose what we want to copy to the staging site. So the database, the files and folders, and if we want to exclude any files or folders, again, this is a pro or premium feature. So we can choose the first two. If we expand this out, you can see we can choose whether we want to include things like themes, plugins, data, and all those kinds of good things. If you don't want to include everything, you don't have to include everything. If it's just going to speed things up, you just want to check, does the plugin work? Don't worry about moving over all the sort of the uploads and those files and kind of things. It's not really necessary. For example, though, we'll leave everything as it is. And all we need to do is click on Create Now. And that will then start creating the staging site for us. Depending upon the size of the site will depend upon how long it actually takes. And after a few moments, once it's finished, we now have our staging site. You can access this from the Staging Sites tab. As you can see, we've got all the staging info, the site name, the home URL, the admin URL, and so on. Also gives information then about the database, the table prefix, etc., etc. There's a couple of options then which are pro features. So like I said earlier, if you want to handle things like pushing and pulling the data from the live site to the staging site and vice versa, which if you're dealing with a site like an e-commerce site, that probably would be incredibly valuable. But that is a pro feature. So we don't have access to that. If you want it, you have to upgrade to pro. And then once you've finished testing everything out, you can simply hit the delete to remove that from your site, delete the data from the database and so on. And then you are back to a plain old copy of your site with no staging sites there. Now, in most use cases, once you've tested everything out, you probably will delete that staging site because there's no real need to keep that extra data on the same server. But you can leave it there if you want to. Now, if you're getting value from this video, why not go down and hit that thumbs up button to tell YouTube that you are? And while you're down there, why not hit the subscribe button? It doesn't cost you anything. But if you're not getting value, well, you can hit the thumbs down button twice, as that seems to work pretty well too. Anyway, let's get back on with learning about staging websites. So now we've seen how to handle it inside WP Vivid. What about if you're using something like xCloud? Now, I'm going to use xCloud because that's the actual hosting panel that I personally use. But whatever you're using, most modern hosting companies, whether it's like a Hostinger, SiteGround, etc., they're all going to have options to allow you to create staging sites. You may have to have slightly higher plans, but those options are going to be there. This generally is a faster way of working, which doesn't rely upon a plugin to handle it. So it's not one more thing you've got to keep updated inside your WordPress website. So this would be my preferred method, but you have multiple ways to handle it. So with xCloud, it's very, very simple to create and manage our staging site. So this is my production site. You can see it's denoted by the fact it says production. If we click the little drop down here, we can create a staging environment. Now, I've already created one, but let's go through the process and see how you create one anyway. You click Add a Staging Site, and inside here, you can set it to a test domain, which in most cases is perfectly fine. You can create your own domain name if you want to, or you can actually push it over to a custom domain. So you may have a custom domain like a subdomain or something, and you want to use that, you could use it inside here. I would generally tend to leave this to a test domain, hit Deploy Staging Site, and then it'll take a few moments, depending upon the size of the site, to create that staging duplicate of our site. Once that's finished, we can come back up to where it says production, click the drop down arrow from here, select our staging site. That will then flip us into our staging site mode. From here, you can see we can access all the information about the server itself. But what we can also do is come into the manage staging option. If we open this up, this now gives us the ability to push and pull our data. So let's quickly see that in action. Let's just say pull data. If we choose that option, we can choose whether we want to pull in files and or the database. And we can choose whether we want to overwrite or create incremental updates. And with the database, whether we want to pull in the full data or we want to select specific database tables. So maybe you want to pull in the orders where you could choose selected ones and then you could pull in the orders from your database. Or like I say, you can choose a full option. Then you just choose the option to pull your data, and that will do exactly that. It will grab the new data in the files and also grab any new database table information and pull that in as well if you've selected those options. Alternatively, if you want to push your data, you can choose the push option, and this does the same thing but in reverse. So again, you can choose the file, so we can choose to overwrite or have incremental copies, and we can choose the database, and we can choose whether we want a full or whether we want just selected tables. And you'll see, take a backup of your production site before pushing changes. So this means that it's going to take a backup of your live website. So if anything happens during this push, we've always got a backup. We can quickly reinstate and get the site back up and running while we do a little bit of fault finding. One of the nice things about doing it though with something like this where you have your hosting panel, our staging site is a separate temporary domain in this example, or you could have a custom domain that's separate to the actual live website. So we're not using resources from the live website in our staging environment. This is a nice way of being able to handle that. And you could easily leave this and use this whenever you want to make changes to check things out before you actually make those changes. And you can pull the data from your live site down to your staging site, make your changes, push everything back up with a backup in place, and you are good to go. So to recap, when should you use a staging site? Use staging whenever you're doing something that could break your site. So things like updating WordPress, your themes or plugins, redesigning layouts, testing e-commerce or membership plugins, adding custom post types, trying out new plugins, building dashboards or forms. If it could cause problems, staging removes the risk completely. And that brings us full circle. Staging sites, whether created through xCloud or WP Vivid, are the simplest, safest way to make changes without breaking your live website. Use them, and those stressful website break-in moments will be a thing of the past. Now, all applicable links for this video and everything else I've covered are in the description down below. My name is Paul C. This is WPTuts, and until next time, take care.